Hello everyone, my name is Shani Jones and this is KNKY, which stands for Know the New Kinky You. I'm your resident certified sex coach and this is part 2 of a series where we are talking about non-monogamous sexual relationships. And this particular conversation is talking about new sex. So, I think that you would agree with me that there is something very exciting about the first time you're going to have sex with someone new, right? There is this first encounter where, there was a moment before you knew each other and then something may have happened. You could have been at a bar, you could have been, at a club, anywhere, grocery store, library, church, and you see this person and there's probably some type of attraction. And then, if it's this instant attraction type thing, because some relationships people grow on you, but when you have that instant attraction, you are wondering, what would it be like to kiss them? What would it be like to hug them and touch them? And you're already contemplating and making that decision in your head as to whether or not you're going to give them some. Now, 9 times out of 10, you have already established and made up your mind that you will at some point. Now, that's only because it goes to the next level, because we're assuming we're talking about new sex. So we've made the decision. Yes, I'm ready to have sex with this person. So when, we have this question of, I'm having sex with this person for the first time. And, if it's the first night that you met, because God, nobody ever does that. When you meet this person and you're having sex with them for the first time on the first night, especially for women, you got a lot of other things in the back of your head, right? It's, oh God, is he going to call me again? Or what if the sex isn't good? And what is he going to call me? Or there's a lot of other things that go on your head, as well as some other things that should be going on in your head. But, if you decide to, as well as the stigma of, oh, she gave it to me the first night. And, my rebuttal to that is always, well, he gave it to her the first night too. So if we calling one a name, we calling the other one a name. I just call it 2 people that wanted to have sex and hopefully did everything that they were supposed to do to make sure that they were safe. So if not the first night, how long do you wait? I'll always think back to the movie Think Like a Man, and it's like, 90 days before she gives up her cookie. Like, I don't think that there should be a set rule. There shouldn't be, I have a 9-month or 6-month rule. Now, I do believe that people who want to have sex with you will wait as long as they want to, as long as they desire to have sex with you, they'll wait. But that doesn't necessarily mean that even by waiting that they won't leave after. If the conquest was the conquest, then it is what it is. Some people do say, okay, well, I'm going to wait to have sex with you because I want you to get to know me. I want to get to know you, figure out if there's any chemistry and compatibility, all of that other stuff, and those are good things to do. But at the same time, you balance that with a sexual attraction that you are delaying for the sake of purpose, for the sake of drawing it out for your reasons. But notice that there's this contrast between the persons that immediately submit to the chemical desires to want to engage in sexual activity with somebody, and someone else that wants those things to happen but delays them for a period of time for their reasons. So think about this. Have you ever let attraction take over logic? So, especially in the earlier scenario where we're talking about the first night, because I'm not going to call it a one night stand, but that very early on sexual encounter, you've known them, that first night, or at least within a couple of days. How much information are you actually getting from them? Do you know their real name, their last name? I know a few people who know people by their street names, their out names, and couldn't point them out by their real names if a list was put in front of them, So make sure that you have appropriate contact information, Also, what's their relationship status? I mean, it's a question I think people have shied away from asking, for the simple fact that if you want it, you're going to get it. And so if he has somebody or she has somebody, it's really not your concern if sex is the primary motive, right? But it's still a good question to ask. What's their life status? Where are they in life? Are they well into their career? And, do they have young kids, older kids? Do they want kids? Where are they in life? Are they working? Are they a student? What are they concentrating on? What takes up their time? It's important to ask these questions because you need to know, especially when you're having sex with somebody that's new, where you're going to fall in the line of priority based on everything else that they have to do. What is their mental health status? Now, mental health is a sensitive topic, and it's not anything where I'm saying that you should go up to somebody and say, hey, are you crazy? But there is information that you can try to get that will give you any indication as to whether or not there could be a problem with this person. Stalking isn't new, right? And it's driven by some compulsive behavior. So you need to understand whether or not somebody that you're having sex with, especially somebody that you don't know that well, whether or not there's any propensity for there to be violence, for there to be any type of uncomfortable situations that you might not want to deal with. So I think that mental health is a question that you should be thinking about and figuring out how to ask. What is your health status in general, but specifically talking about your sexual health status? A lot of people, they jump in and they have sex with each other and they never talk about their sexual health and their status. I remember dating this one guy who, and I actually appreciate him for this, who we had to exchange recent medical health records before we had sex. So, you may not want to go to that extreme, but you may want to, because sex is great as sex is. I don't personally want to die because of sex. As a sex coach, I'm telling you now, I would rather give up sex than to die because of sex. That's just not what I want to do. And you shouldn't want to either. So know your sexual health status, know yours, get tested fairly frequently, especially if you're having unprotected sex. Now, we think that condoms are, 100%. They're not. We should know that they're not. So even if you don't get somebody pregnant, there are other ways to contract an STD or an STI, even with the use of condoms. So be mindful of that, and then have that sexual health conversation. And just be mindful that getting caught up in a moment is not worth your life. So just go through all of this, because all of these questions can lead to some real drama if you don't ask them, whether it's the girlfriend you didn't know about who finds your number and wants to start calling you up, or as guy lives at home with his mama and starts spending time with you, and next thing you know, he's in your house. No, you want to make sure that you're having a comprehensive understanding of who the person is that you are dealing with. Now, we talked about it a little bit, but you have to understand about risking your life. The STIs and the STDs, you have diseases that we just don't have cures for yet. We have ways to manage them, but we don't have cures, and those diseases can be spread through sexual contact. So protect yourself. Male condoms, female condoms, dental dams, whatever it is you have to do. And I know that most of you won't do that. But if you're going to engage in sexual sex with somebody, understanding and knowing their sexual health is going to be your biggest factor. Knowing that they're already clean, knowing that you're already clean, knowing that you aren't having sex with a bunch of other people. And if you are, knowing their statuses and them knowing their statuses, because remember, it's just like a cold. it goes off to this person, goes off to this person, and it spreads. So you want to make sure that you're doing your best to keep your bubble protected. When you're having sex with somebody that you don't know, especially, it can happen the other way. You potentially put yourself in a position to be raped. And we talked about the stalking, but there's also pregnancy. You don't want to have sex with somebody that you barely know and end up pregnant. And then you have to deal with the question of, am I going to have the baby? Am I not going to have the baby? What type of role is this person going to have in my life? Or even in other situations where I've seen men who get trapped, and it does happen, by these women who want babies and set them up to get pregnant, and now they have a baby that they didn't plan for, they didn't want. So make sure that you have these conversations. And also the social media exposure. We've talked a little bit about it before, but everybody has cameras and cell phones, obviously, that you're watching videos. And a lot of times these videos are of people that may or may not know that they have been put out on social media having sex. A lot of it's consensual, but sometimes we see those videos that get posted and somebody didn't know. So make sure that you're aware of your surroundings. Make sure that you know whether or not there are any cameras that are recording you. And if there are, make sure that you've given permission, so ask the questions. How do you prepare for these situations? So first of all, women, ladies, we need to carry condoms with us. If the condom that you choose, let's say, for instance, you choose a latex condom, regular Trojan latex condom, and the dude has a latex allergy, then he should know better and have his own condoms. And if he doesn't, then shame on you, go to the store. If it's a Magnum and the Magnum is a little too big, then okay, sorry, you know what size you wear, you should have condoms, shame on you. But have them for yourself. Make sure that you're keeping them with you just in case, because you never know. Unless you're that person that knows off the break, no, I'm not having sex with anybody. No. But if there's ever the potential, whether you are just meeting somebody or you're dating somebody, and you never know when that moment is going to happen where you decide to have sex with that person for the first time. Because again, we're talking about new sex. New sex doesn't have to be that one night stand. New sex can be that, we've built up and we've dated and we've talked and we've gotten to know each other. And now you're at that moment where, damn, it's about to happen. You're going to get lucky. And then you're there and you don't have a condom. Let me tell you what happens. If you go down that road the very first time that you have sex and you don't use protection, there's not going to be any reason in probably either of your heads to go back and then put on a condom later. Maybe, but unlikely. So now you're setting yourself up to be in a relationship, a sexual relationship, where you're not using protection. So if you establish that criteria early, where condoms, dental dams, whatever you're going to do is a requirement for sex. Remember those non-negotiables we talked about in the other video. If you know that that's the case, then put it out there. Keep a bowl of them, keep a drawer full of them, but keep some with you. Make sure you're using condoms, male and female. Now we talked about the stalking and the rape. Make sure you carry some type of safety device with you. I don't know what's legal where you are, but some people carry pepper spray, or they carry a pocket knife, or they carry something. I've even seen, I wish I had one of those little keychains that have like the little cat ears, so you can walk and you can protect yourself. So also, this is probably more important to me than a lot of other things, is that making sure that if you're going out with somebody or leaving to a club or something to go somewhere with somebody, make sure that someone you know has your contact information and their contact information, their name, phone number, make, model of the car, because you never want to be the victim where you have gone out and been swooped up with somebody, and again, I'm talking to men and women, and then somebody's got you doing all kinds of crazy shit that you didn't want them to do. So make sure that somebody knows how to get in touch with you and where you're going to be and who you're going to be with. All right. Whenever you're in a sexual situation, the first time or any time, but we're talking first time, don't feel pressure. Don't feel undue pressure. So if it's ever in a situation where you aren't sure, or you have some questions, never jump into a situation just because you think they want to, or you want to do it because they want to. No. Undue pressure doesn't work. All right. And take responsibilities for your actions. So if you go out and you've been drinking and you tell him yes, or any of that, take responsibilities for your actions. There are a lot of times where we go out and we have one mindset, and we go and put ourselves in a position where we want to be sexual, and then we change our minds. That is 100% allowable, but don't put yourself in a position to have to do that. Don't put yourself in a position where you're going to be so twisted that you can't be cognizant and know where you are and what you're doing. So just be mindful to be safe and take responsibilities for your actions, making sure that you're doing everything that you're supposed to do to be safe and create that safe environment. Now, once you decide to have sex, because I know that was a long way around, but once you actually make the decision to have sex, if the sex is great and like awesome, right? You have to make sure that you understand that the chemical releases these endorphins, dopamine in your brain, and you get all these euphoric feelings. And you have to make sure that you're discerning love from lust. So lust and sex can create a drive that is super crazy, but can also mess with our brains to make us think that we're in love. So making sure that we understand the differences, right? And don't move too quickly. Make sure that even if you have sex that first night and it happens to be great and it happens to be awesome and you have a good chemistry, still take the time to get to know each other. Because a lot of times what happens in relationships, especially these non-monogamous sexual relationships, is that we oftentimes get so caught up in sex that that's all we begin to do. You know, we stop talking, we stop going out, we stop getting to know each other. As long as we are in a position of being intimate and having that opportunity, take that time also to get to know each other. Know your likes, the dislikes, personally and sexually. Have all of the conversations. Just make sure that you are putting yourself in a position to be aware of what the future looks like. Now, in the event the sex is not great, there are a couple things to consider. How do you tell them? You know, do you tell them? You know, that's that whole ghosting thing. Like, you know, certain people have had sex with you and maybe it wasn't that great, and you know, they didn't know how to tell you, and so they just stop calling, they disappear. I mean, it's possible. That might be a reason why it happens. I think so. But, you know, I think that there's a better way instead of just, you know, disappearing. Like, if there's something that isn't good, you know, you could just try telling them, you know, like, hey, you know, thanks for last night. You know, I think that there may have been something just a little off with, you know, our flow, you know, so nice to meet you, but, you know, something like that. I'm making this up as I go. So, but, you know, you have to just be cognizant, because I will have to admit the younger me wasn't so nice and could be offensive, and not, you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. It's just sometimes, you know, every lock don't fit every key. You just have to make sure that don't ghost people. All right. Now, there's also the second chance conversation, because again, when people have sex for the first time, they're still learning each other. They're still, trying to figure out moves. They're trying to, know who they are sexually. Not everybody has that first sexual encounter and it's like, whoo. So you're like, can I give them a second chance? Yeah, sure. But when you give second chances, don't go in with the expectation, like you did the first time, that they're going to know what to do. There has to be some guidance. There's going to have to be some level of conversation. It's going to have to be, even if it's not verbal conversation, because a lot of people aren't comfortable talking. But when you have these guiding words or guiding touches, you're leading the person to understand what it is that they can do to bring you pleasure. You can say it, of course, but there are things that can be done. You want that person to know. Which leads me to the last point under this particular topic: if the sex is bad, can a person be trained? Now, there's another channel on Instagram where I think Eight at the Table, and I like this show, and they actually have a lot of great topics, and they asked the question about can they be trained, and I listened to the conversation, and I agreed and I disagreed, point counterpoint, in a lot of ways. So trained, I think, is a harsh word, because trained, gives you association with like an animal or some type of thing that has a mind of its, doesn't have a mind of its own. Like you can get a, so maybe not trained, but maybe you can empower somebody, or, give them that knowledge that will help them do what it is that you want them to do, which is to be sexually satisfying, to be sexually gratifying. You want that from a person. And if like that first time it happens, it's not great, but you feel like there's a spark, it could be good. You can't, I wouldn't say train, because remember, it's the issue with vocabulary. I would help learn that person, learn me, right? So where you like to be kissed or touched or how or what, you can give that person that information. And hopefully if they are a person that really is into you, they'll take that information and use it to bring you sexual satisfaction as well as themselves. And it works both ways. So you want to make sure that whether the sex is great the first time or lackluster and promising, now if it's completely just bad, feel free to walk away. Just don't ghost people. Say something. If there's room for improvement, be that teacher, be that, because one young lady was like, I'm too old. I don't have time to teach nobody nothing. They need to know what they're doing. I get it. It's like a job. You're supposed to have a specific skill set, a minimum level skill set in order to get through the door, right? These are our requirements for the position. Can you satisfy this position? The answer should be yes. Now, if there are specialties that you need in order to enhance your skill set and knowledge specific to that job, because every woman ain't the same, every man ain't the same. Everything that somebody else did is not going to do it the same way for the next person. And it should not be on us to hold those obligations from others to the next person. I just don't think it's fair. So if you're not willing to show that person or teach that person how to be a better lover for you, then I don't know, maybe there is that one person out there that just knows you by heart and can do it, but you're probably not going to have the best sex that you could possibly be having if you're not willing to teach and show somebody how to get you off, basically. Now, you still have to talk about expectations, preferably before sex, but definitely after sex, where you're going to talk about how often are we seeing each other, is this fucking or dating, because there is a difference, and either way, if you're fucking or you're dating, are we exclusive? Are we exclusively having sex, but I'm open to dating other people, and if I meet somebody else that I like, then I'll let you know and we'll stop having sex and I'll go have sex with this person. That's how I see that scenario playing out. Or, are we able to have sex with whomever we want, and we see each other when we see each other, and hopefully we're all using condoms and dental dams and everything else, and great, we are having open relationships. How much do you want to share, and know if that's going to be the case? So if you know, and you're on the same page, because I'm not talking about cheating. Now, when one person is going out and having sex with everybody, then that one person is in a monogamous relationship and the other person is doing what they do. I'm talking about when you have two people who know that they are not exclusive when it comes to sexual relationships. How much information do you want to share with them? So if one calls, and I have a friend that I think is so funny, if you're out on a date with one person and one of your sexual partners calls, do you ignore the call? Do you call back? Do you send a text? And if they ask, well, I called you, where were you? Do you lie? Do you say, oh, I was on a date with such and such, or I was not, even if you with, let's say you're in the act. Oh, I was with my friend, we were just hanging out. And is she supposed to, or he's supposed to know that hanging out is code word for sex? You have to figure that out. Certain things, and I'm not going to give you a 100% right way to do it, because every situation is going to be different for everybody that's in it. So just understand that having the conversation is what's going to be important here. So let's recap. New sex is great. Most of the time it's great. You have to be careful about the who's and the when's. Any context about the why. We know why because we want to. But the who. Like, how much do you know about this person? Have you asked all the right questions about their life status, health status, all of the status, sexual health status? Have you asked all of the questions? How well do you know each other? Names, goals, what do you want from each other? How is it going to work once you have sex? Assuming the sex is good, and assuming the sex, if it wasn't good, it can be better. How does all of this work if you're not in a relationship? Just have the conversations. You're going to have to. Don't avoid it, because then when you avoid it, people's feelings get hurt. Miscommunication, misunderstandings, misleading happens. That's when we get into stalker situations and all kinds of other stuff. So talk up front. That's going to be the key. If you need help, you can always reach out to me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you have already subscribed, thank you so much. If you're already a follower on social media, thank you so much. Please feel free to share and comment and like on this video. I look at all of the feedback and I use it to try to tailor what it is that we talk about. Again, you can support me across all social media at DOYOUKNKY. And thank you for tuning in. I will see you on the next video.